Yes, interesting stories along the way with Mr. Bill Wilks, who I'm sure everybody is familiar with in some capacity. Not, maybe the arts, it may be German Village, it may be sports. There's a lot of different areas. First off, as John was referring to, it's been a busy couple months for you. You're strong. I don't know how much you want to explain that. Kind of been through something recently, but you're doing well. Just to reassure everyone.
Yeah, I just went through bypass heart surgery. I had 2 valves and 1 bypass, and went to Christ Hospital. That was in April. So this is my 7th week from the operation. But anyhow,
you'll be ready to go one-on-one next week if anybody wants to take them on. Mr. Bill Wilks, quite a history of a lot of things you've been involved with in the area. And some folks may know, or some other folks may not realize, you're originally not from Hamilton.
I was born in Hamilton.
You were born in Hamilton.
The rest of the family was not born.
Family was not born in Hamilton, but you were your younger brother, of course, of Harry by 11 years.
No, Harry's 6 years older.
6 years older.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my other brother was 9 years older.
Okay, that's where
My sister was 12 years older.
Whoops, this jumped way ahead here. Not liking me tonight. I'll wear out the batteries. So who is this is the family at different stages here.
Okay, that's their 25th anniversary, Mom and Dad.
Okay.
And that's the 50th out there.
Out here. And who is who? Now that's you there, the younger brother?
That's the star.
That's the star. Front and center. And
that's my dad.
Okay.
Dad came here in 1927 or 28, and he worked for Copper's Company, which is an engineering company, and he was assigned to build the Coke plant up in New Miami, which he did. And then at that point, the Depression was on then, and so Dad was a civil engineer. Times were tough then, and they asked him if he wanted to be the superintendent of the Coke plant. So he went home to his wife, Mabel, and Mabel says, "Are you nuts?" "Yes, we're going to stay. I'm tired of traveling." So he stayed in Hamilton and managed the Coke plant up until in the 70s. So anyhow, that's how we got here. And that's my sister. She went to DePaul University and a social worker.
Okay. Of course.
Harry.
That's Harry.
Attorney. Francis Jr. They call him Deed. He's a dentist down in Cincinnati. Right. They're all passed away now. Harry was except me. Still kicking.
And
that's me.
I like that smile. How old were you in this picture, do you think?
They're 25th, so figured out.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. We'll do the math later.
Probably under 10, I would say.
Now, you said your family traveled. Did you? The family had come from Chicago?
Yeah. Well, Harry was born in Chicago, and Deed was born in Pennsylvania, and Marge was born someplace else. Okay. And anyhow, Dad traveled, and because he worked building different places in the United States. So Mom became the boss after Hamilton, and she said, "We're staying here. We're not moving anymore."
Well, I'm jumping way far ahead. For some reason, this wants to jump ahead here. I apologize. Okay, well, there we go. So the family came here. Now, a lot of folks are familiar with your name early on, who may have grown up in your era or a little bit after. Talk about your sports days here in Hamilton.
Right. Okay. This is a picture of the 49 state champs. Warren Schaller was the coach at that time. That was his first year coach at the high school. Mm-hmm. And so We made it easy on Schaller. He,
Because the
we won
talent-
first year he wins the state championship, so he had a little career
Now,
in front of him.
who else was on this team that we might know?
Okay, well, you know Jim Bailey. He's
Okay.
number 7 there,
Okay,
and he's quite famous. That's Bailey Square over here in Second Ward, and he went to Miami University, and Woody Hayes worked him over pretty good. I think he lasted 2 years there.
Okay.
Or maybe 3. And that's Bernie Griesinger next.
Number 8?
Yeah, Bernie's popular around Hamilton. He's a great friend of mine. Gene Baldwin. Gene went to West Point, and he was accepted at West Point.
Wow.
And
West Point.
then that's me, number 9. I went to Ohio State. Then the next one is Don Weekey. Don was valedictorian of the class, and his mom and dad was a coach at Hamilton High School, and his mother.
Was your teacher?
No, she wasn't my teacher.
Or was Joyce's teacher?
Yeah, Bob Weekey. Yeah, and that's Joe Okulitz, and anyhow, he's in Louisville now. He was a paper salesman and a good one. And Donnie Noto. God.
Joe McGuire.
Yeah, Joe McGuire.
That's all right, thank you.
Yeah, George Janettos, Pappy Smith, Will Kiger, Ike Wells, and Elgene Manus. Well, you're going to hear about Elgene later. Elgene, well, yeah, go ahead.
All right, so this was 1949.
49, yeah.
What year were you in high school?
46 to 49.
Okay, so that was your senior year?
Yeah, senior year.
Okay. And so leading up to that, were you doing both basketball and football in high school?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
We came in third, I think, that year in the state in football. We should have been first, but we lost the game at Mansfield, and it's the coach's fault.
When you win, it's the players. Now,
Yeah, I'll tell you, I always thought he made a mistake because he integrated the single wing offense because of, I don't know why, but anyhow, he did that. And I think it got us screwed up because we were a T offense the whole year. And then that year it sort of threw us off our rhythm. But we lost by 1 touchdown. And so it was, they were crazy up there. They were ready for us.
as far as football in high school, what position did you play in high school?
Quarterback.
You were a quarterback in high school as well? Okay, we'll talk about OSU coming up. But for basketball in high school, you were all state?
Basketball, yes.
Basketball all state, and Mr. Basketball?
Well, whatever they call it.
Mr. Basketball. Explain what that is.
Every year they have, the basketball player of the year, and so of Ohio. So then I was that year, 49.
Basketball player of the year.
Yeah.
Mr. Basketball for Ohio.
For high school people, that is.
Right. Thank you, John. And this is?
I don't know what that is.
This is 2000.
Hall of Fame, yeah.
Hall of Fame, Butler County Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So that's just I was elected to the Hamilton, or is that Butler County Hall of Fame.
What's Hall of Fame?
I'm not too sure what year that is.
Okay, that was presented in 2006.
2006.
And again, 1949, you were Ohio Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's at the gym. That what they have hanging over at Hamilton High School in the gym. Joe Nuxall and I went in together. We're the first players on that.
Very good.
Yeah, so it was an honor to go with Joe too.
Before we get to Ohio State, you took a little time between high school and going to school to.
Yeah. Anyhow,
There's a grin.
Yeah, I don't have any pictures because it's so long. Anyhow, Elgene Manus, our manager, or the guy that took care of us on the basketball team and the football team, anyhow, he and I had a 1931 Chevrolet, and so anyhow, I talked to LG to go with me out to California, and I just passed that around. And it's the only picture I got, so I want it back.
Was this one of those road trips where you kind of worked your way across?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we didn't work. We had papers, saying that we were good people, and if they wanted to hire us, just in case, we had that, but we didn't have to work. So, but anyhow, it was an adventure. So we started out right after graduating from high school, and we went out Route 66. First night we stayed at the graveyard. We had the back of the sedan loaded with sleeping bags, and I don't know what all was in there, but it was full. And so anyhow, we found a gazebo in this cemetery. That kept the dew off of us. But anyhow, that was the first night. I never forget that. And then after that, we got to we went down to Juarez, Mexico. That was an experience. We went to the petrified forest, and there we could just roam where we wanted to. You could take. So I brought some petrified wood back for my dad, and then we went to the Carlsbad Caves down there, and then we went down into Juarez, Mexico, and that was an experience. I mean,
just out of high school, yeah. Fill in your own stories.
Yeah. So anyhow, we got out of there, and then we went back up. We went up to up toward Grand Canyon, and we went through the over Hoover Dam, which was sort of new in those days, and then we went into Las Vegas, and Las Vegas wasn't even there then. It was just a desert. But they did have, there was a little town, Las Vegas, and they had about 3 or 4 casinos. And our car, the one that passing around there, it ran hot. The top speed on that car was 35 miles an hour. Or if we went over it would boil over. Yeah. So that cap was on the outside of the radiator there, and so every time it got hot, it would spin around, and when it hit the right spot, it would blow off. So then we had to stop the car, run back, and find our cap, and put the daggone thing back on again. So we spent a lot of time driving and a lot of time
searching.
Yeah, searching for our cap.
How long did it take you?
It didn't take us about 6 or 7 days. It's amazing.
At 35 miles an hour.
Yeah. Well, it could have been 8 days or 9, but it wasn't like, a real long time. But we hit all the spots there was to see.
I can imagine you start entertaining yourself singing songs.
Yeah.
At 35 miles an hour.
I was a fast driver. I could drive 35 miles an hour. And Elgene was a slow driver. we had some rough roads to go over, and he would drive it slow. So
everybody should have that road trip.
It was fun, but it was an adventure.
So you had an adventure, but then you were able to get to Ohio State. How did it happen? Getting to Ohio State, were you recruited?
Yeah. Well,
for basketball, for football,
basketball.
How about?
Mostly basketball. I don't think I got any recruitments on football. I may have gotten 1 or 2, but smaller schools. But I was recruited at Wisconsin, Cornell, Kentucky. Adolph Rupp came up and sat on the front porch, recruiting me, my mom and dad. So that was an experience. And so anyhow, Warren Shallows from Ohio State Chuck Facker was the football coach. He was from Ohio State. So anyhow, I went to Ohio State, and they wined and dined me, and they had a fraternity, Phi Gamma Delta, which I don't know. One of the members of the basketball team, Bob Burkholder, was a member of Phi Gamma, so he took me under his wing, and so they took me out. They were sort of the recruiters for the athletic department. He took over recruiting me, so they would take me out and for dinner. And anyhow, I stayed at the Phi Gamma house. I wasn't a member. I was a pledge. The only pledge, only probably person at any fraternity or sorority that has stayed at the house and not being a member.
Full member,
yeah.
Pledge, yeah.
So anyhow, they hazed me and harassed me and all that stuff. So I was right there, and I got the brunt of it. Everybody else, it was more of a lot of people from Upper Arlington, and a lot of people from North End were members. Jack Nicholas wasn't a member then, but he became a member. Rusty Barmaster, I got Rusty, and I got Dave Weaver. So I recruited them, got them in. So we had sort of a Hamilton. We had a couple other guys in the fraternity. So we had about 5 or 6 guys from Hamilton. Upper Arlington had probably 5 or 6 guys, which helped because they knew Columbus and knew how to get around. Yeah. So if we go out, they knew where to go. So anyhow, I finally made my grades and got in. I got in the first year. Just kidding. So anyhow, it was official, and I stayed there all 4 years. But I still got friends that I play. We go out every year and golf someplace in the United States. We go to California or wherever. Last year we went to Austin, Texas, and had a great time.
And you received a scholarship, or did you get it full?
Yeah, the scholarships in those days wasn't where they pay for your books and you work for a company. I worked for a Jaeger machine company, and I earned $100 a month. That's what the scholarship was. Because during the season you're supposed to work 6 hours, and I think off season you're supposed to work 15 hours. I didn't quite make it all the time, but I tried. But they were a little lenient about it, thank God, because in basketball they played games on Monday nights and Saturday nights because of the school, and we played all the Big Ten teams, which Wisconsin, Indiana, and so forth. Illinois, Nebraska wasn't in then, but. So and it was all by train. We didn't go by airplane. We went by train. So we would catch the train that evening, sleep over, go to Chicago, and then from Chicago, then we go to Wisconsin, Minnesota, wherever it was. So we played on Monday, so we missed that day, and sometimes we didn't get back till Wednesday. So we took our books with us.
Took them with you anyway.
Yeah. So anyhow, and then and then they go to the next week and the next week. So
it's interesting how the scholarships have changed through the years, and again, every year it's a controversy of what scholarships should be and how they work.
Right.
So you actually had to have a job.
That's what it was in those days. Of course, it's 1951 now, or I went there in 1949, the fall. And I got out in 53. So things have changed a lot.
How successful was the basketball team during your tenure there?
Not very successful. I went up, the coach was Tippy Dye, who was a national renowned coach. They just got back from NCAA I think we were in the Final Four that year before. Freshmen couldn't play, were not eligible for the varsity in those time. You just couldn't play. That was the NCAA rules. So anyhow, we had a team, people that were on the junior varsity, whatever we called it. We would practice against the varsity all the time. So we made them, so they won. But anyhow, so then I might as well. So then the next year I started, and we weren't, we broke about even. And in fact, that was my whole career, about breaking even all the time, because I was a forward. I was 6'2". They had Indiana won the NCAA championship, I think 1 or 2 years in. They sort of dominated the basketball in those days, University of Indiana. And their forwards and centers were 6'10", 6'11". So, I mean, Ohio State was not,
You were already at a disadvantage.
At a disadvantage, yeah. We had a great player, Paul Ebert. I don't know, you guys, nobody heard of him, but he was an outstanding player. He was only about 6'4", and he was our center. But he could jump, and he was a good basketball player. So anyhow, we held on. We beat Indiana. This is claim to fame. The year that they won the NCAA at home at Ohio State. So we were, we could compete, but we couldn't hardly ever win. So our record was like 11-11, 12-12, and so forth. So,
but you got to play. Well, at least you were on the football team at Ohio State for Woody Hayes.
well, that
I think the microphone might have slipped. Pardon me while I scoot this down. It slipped up a little bit. There we go.
So anyhow, Woody came to Ohio State in 1951. And I was I played, I started sophomore year, 51. So Woody comes, he goes to the basketball coach, he said, would you let Wilks play quarterback? And, Floyd Stahl, who took the coach I went up under, Tippy Dye, he says, yeah, go ahead. I'm a piece of meat. So,
but you essentially got recruited by Woody Hayes.
well, yeah, I was his first recruit.
There we go.
I mean, I was, the guy. If anybody says who was Woody's first recruit at Ohio State, I was.
There we go.
Yeah, from the basketball team. So, anyhow, first year I did pretty good. I was, they have an inter squad spring game every, and I was great. And then the first couple games, about the third or fourth, I started and I got hurt. So I think I'm the last guy to play football and basketball at Ohio State and start in both sports. But I haven't really looked at it. But as far as I know, there's been nobody after
that.
I just don't have time to do that.
Sure.
So, and then I played second string. But on that team was Vic Janowicz, who was a Heisman Trophy winner. So that was nice. And then the next year, when I was a senior, I played second string, and on the second string was Hopalong Cassidy, who became a Heisman Trophy winner. So I got to know both of them, and it's just nice, something to talk about anyhow, rather than winning a championship or something.
Well, some of the names you mentioned along the way, an opportunity to play with some or play for some legends.
Yeah, they're legends. They're Heisman Trophy winners, so you can't. So anyhow, that was sort of interesting. And another thing, you get up in front of 90,000 people, and you're starting a game.
That's pretty cool.
I can remember the first pass they had to play, that I faked a Janowicz or somebody, and then I run off to the side, and the halfback goes 15 yards and goes in. The end goes over 10 yards and goes toward the sideline. So both of them are wide open. So I get passed and my hand was sweating. The ball went right up in the air. So, anyhow, he kept me in front of 85, 90,000.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So if you ever have a mistake at work, there aren't 85,000 people watching you make a mistake. Think of that.
And that's what most people watch as a quarterback, So anyhow, I settled down and did pretty well, and we finally won the game. But the next game, I got hurt, and so that was my career. And I played second string, but really couldn't fool around with me anymore. And then they started that rumor like 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and I think I was the reason he started that. They had that rumor because they never hardly passed after that. I was a passer, and what he said, 3 things can go wrong, Anyhow, so.
Well, see there again. The legend builds and the stories just get better.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, then Woody went on. 54, he won the national championship with Hopalong Cassidy. Of course, I wasn't on that one.
Okay, so where are you here with the basketball
I'm
team?
right next to Tommy Williams, which is that right there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's see. I'm guessing number 12.
No.
No good. Okay.
I'm 28, wherever that is.
They're not in chronological order here. 28. No, 21.
One more first row. Yeah. Coming.
Left. There he is. Okay.
I'm in the front row.
Yeah, you're in the front row.
That means something.
Very good.
So anyhow.
After college, you were in the ROTC, went into the military.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and very lucky. That was the end of the Korean War, so I went to Germany, which was another good thing. And but anyhow, the Korean War was over, but they were negotiating all this time. So I'm in the Korean War, it's one of those things. But Erding, Germany, that's where they had the ramjets after the war, as the war was ending down. That was the Air Force base that they had the ramjets in. So they had quite a deal there, exhibition of all the different planes, and they had a few of them left. I guess it didn't get shot down or crashed, but Germany was very nice. I got married right after college.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. So where was I was?
That's just a mural they did.
Who did that?
When I was there, I don't know.
But that was from Ohio State.
Yeah.
And again, how many people have that at all, or since then? Again, with both the basketball and the football.
Well, I don't know.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's who I married. So anyhow, then I went. Well, this is sort of funny because I graduated. On June. June the 12th. Yeah, graduated June the 12th, 53. I got my orders. Report to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. Be shipped overseas on July 2nd or 3rd or 4th. I'm not sure what date that was. But anyhow, so graduated on the 12th, got married on the 20th. We went down to Florida. Margie, Dave's wife, is in a wedding. And anyhow, so we went down to Florida on a honeymoon, 2 weeks. I had a car then. I had Ohio State. You almost had to have a car if you play sports because, you go to class, you go out here, and we played at the field house, which was at the fairgrounds when we played basketball. We didn't have those fancy basketball courts they have now. But anyhow, so you almost had to have a car to get around, and then you go from here to there and so forth. But anyhow, so where was I?
Graduated on the 12th, got married on the 20th.
Yeah, so then I went on honeymoon. So then I took the car up to Camp Kilmer, and Patty took a plane back to Hamilton. She worked at Champion Paper Company. So then went over on a boat, on a troop carrier or whatever, and that was experience. We had the guy that could do the dance. I mean, he was terrific in that day.
Dance?
Yeah.
The chicken dance?
Or no, not the chicken dancing. This guy was
like
was a professional. He's in the movies and everything, but
Oh.
I mean, he could really dance. But anyhow, he was on the ship, and they made me entertainment manager. So I recruited guys so they'd have shows for the GIs or whatever. And so anyhow, he was good. Greco or some name, his famous guy, he could do that, with the things, and they really nice dance. But so anyhow, that was sort of an experience. And then we went up to Bremen on the North Sea of Germany up there, and they made me the commander of the train that came down from there down to Munich, which was where I was stationed. And so I'd have to let the guys out and count them and all this stuff. So,
So it wasn't, like I said, the fortunate thing was that the war was over, so
yeah,
there wasn't a lot of
right, nothing.
combat pressure.
No,
So you're able to do your job, everyone's able to do their job, and be able to have less pressure than being in a war situation.
right. So there's only 2 second lieutenants on the base, and they get all the crap details, So I was class 6 officer, which was a good detail, because that's the liquor store. I was in charge of the liquor store. And I was reports of survey officer, which was, you took care of all the accidents that they had on the base, airplane accidents, no matter which was. I was the secretary, so they had all the generals and everybody, and determined whether the guy was at fault or not at fault. If he was at fault, he had to pay for it. Of course, probably never did, but he was responsible for paying for it.
That sounds kind of like the insurance business.
Yeah, well, it was. It was a good experience. So, what else was I? Well, a school officer. So we had to hire the teachers and stuff that came in every year. So I got to check out all the women teachers that came in, just to make sure they could grade well and all that stuff. So anyhow, they made me all that stuff. And then I was playing basketball. We won the Safe Championship that year, and they had a football which was not tackle, it was touch football or whatever it was.
Flag football.
Yeah, so I played that. Went to London, and London won the championship in London. London fog, you don't hear about it anymore. But I was there during a fog, 12 o'clock noon in the city of London. You couldn't see from here that telephone pole. And what it was is they all burned coal or whatever they burned in the winter, and it just
hung in the atmosphere.
It just hung there, and it was an experience. But anyhow, so we couldn't fly back. We had to catch a train. So then we get on a train. I was in charge of that. We had this is a basketball team. We had 10 guys, 11 guys maybe. So we had to get tickets, and I was in charge because I was a lieutenant, and I had to do everything, So I had to go get the tickets to get on the train and all that stuff. Nobody had any money because we were over there for 5 or 6 days, and then, so I slept, they had an officer's billet someplace. I slept, I think, on a couch there, and these guys went to the enlisted guys and slept there, so they got to sleep.
In the barracks? Or?
Yeah, whatever they had for them. And but anyhow, it was an experience, and it took us about 2 or 3 days to get back to Munich. And my wife was coming over at that time, and I think I got back in time to pick her up, but it was close. Because I think that's why we came back on the train, because that fog wasn't going to lift. So anyhow.
Well, let's with your time after Germany, you returned to Hamilton.
Yeah, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So we had our first child in Europe, She died in Belgium, Merck's Belgium. So that was very sad. But the one thing they never do is like, they send an airplane over to pick me up, pick us both up, and bring us back to the base after they had the funeral and everything. And so, it was just one of those things that it was a small base, so it wasn't that big a base, and everybody was really tore up about it. But anyhow, we got through that, and we came back. I think that was April. It was April, and we came back to the United States in July. We get back. I can remember sitting there after we got off. We flew back, and we were going to the hotel. We were staying there because my sister was in New York, so we're going to visit with her for a week or so. So anyhow, in the hotel, here we're sitting at lunch, and we went into some place to get something to eat. And so anyhow, they come up to you and you say, "What do you want, Mac?" So we were used to Germany, where the guy had a thing over his arm and everything with music, And so we just, both of us just looked at each other.
Shock.
Yeah, like, well, we're back in New York. We're back in the United States. So.
But you decided to return to Hamilton. Was that a conscious decision, or just kind of a natural progression of just kind of coming home?
Just natural. Yeah, just because where else was I going to go? And the only place to stay was probably my mom and dad's house. It didn't take her long though to get rid of it, because about the second week we were there, she says, "When are you moving?"
It's nice for you to visit.
Yeah,
when
right.
are you leaving?
Yeah, when are you getting out of here? So anyhow, we got out of there. So I looked for jobs in Armco, which my dad worked for, so they interviewed me. My father always told me, he said, "Work for yourself. Don't ever work for anybody else if you can help it." And so that always stuck with me. There's a couple other things he told me stuck with me too, but I won't tell you now. But anyhow, so I interviewed there. Bill Wolf at Southwestern Ohio Steel interviewed me too. But I thought I'd go to work for myself. So anyhow, there was a agency that was for sale for. It belonged to Hammond. There's two brothers, two Hammonds. Well, anyhow, this one I think drank a lot, and so anyhow, it ended up I bought that insurance agent, not knowing anything about insurance other than what I got in school, and so my wife would I had to take the exam, so. We study, and so I can see. I drove, and she read the questions. What do you do about this?
When you're on your way to take the exam.
Yeah, right. So I passed them. I passed the life insurance and the property and casualty, and so I went to High Casualty and talked to them over there. Went to Cincinnati Insurance, who was just getting started at that time, and they both accepted me as an agent. So here I am. Trying to think how am I going to do this. So I had Bill Milders as a friend of mine, and Hathaway and Hathaway had an office in the Rensselaer building. And they said, "You can come in here. We won't charge any rent or anything because we just use it as a base, not." And then Patty, who turned out to be the secretary, got a desk and no air conditioning in the summertime. So she sweated all through it. So I'm out, going through.
You're out in the sunshine.
Starting to sell insurance. So I had a few people that would buy from me, mom and dad, and whoever else. So I started out Dave Blue. He's one of my first. So anyhow. Started out and
steadily grew.
Yeah, steadily grew. and moved out of their office. They're very kind. I mean, about 6 months we got another room in the Rentschler building, and so I was working day and night, just calling on different places, cold calls. I just go out and call them. Hand coal company, they, you know, I called on them. They bought from me, and some of my friends like that. So anyhow, it worked out.
Progress from there.
Yeah. So we built up, and I don't know, Craig. There's my son over there. He's in charge now. So I think we're either first or second in the city now in capacity. So.
And you have an office in Westchester as well.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So how did what we're seeing here now is where you are, where the
Okay, that's our office now, and that was how that's how it looked when after 10 years in the Rentschler building, and I started in '55. I bought this. It was Dr. Robinson, yeah. His office. He was quitting practice, so I bought that building. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to pay rent anymore. So I thought, well, I'll invest the rent in the loan. So that's what I did, and that's how we fixed it up a little bit, and that's how it looked.
Whoops.
In 1955.
Let's see.
So anyhow, it worked out. Don Cecil bought insurance from me. All my friends, they all bought, and so
Okay,
it was working out.
So you have a property in what's now known as German Village, but it wasn't called German Village back then?
No.
It was a neighborhood.
Yeah, it was just a neighborhood, a run-down neighborhood.
Yeah.
You cannot imagine. And people, it was run down. I mean, so anyhow, I thought, well, I'm going to build up this office here. I got to make next door and on both sides look nicer, so people, will feel like, want to come in and buy from me, not run away from me. So
we have a lot of before and after pictures here. Now, I don't want to jump too far ahead. So this progressed from, again, wanting to make your office look nice and getting a couple properties next door to build it up.
So anyhow, I worked in, I was 55, so I worked about 65, maybe, early 60s, and then I started buying up the houses, like the one next door. I bought it and, fixed it up, and then the one in back of me was so bad. Walked in there, roaches were all over the place, and kids in Linden Street, there were probably 30 kids there, and there was just. And the museum is the historic museum, or Butler County Museum, is right next door to us. So they had, that was a nice thing in the neighborhood. And over on 3rd Street, they had the community foundation, they had the library. So it was a good neighborhood.
There were some pieces there that were a foundation to build from.
Right.
So we're going to talk about some of these before and after pictures, but how did it then become German Village?
All right, so I bought up at that point, probably had 20 buildings. And what I would do, I'd borrow the money from the loan company, rent it out, the rent would pay off the loan. I'm still doing it. But anyhow, that's what I did. And then I fixed them up because you needed money to repair them and whatever. All of them needed electric. So I hired a guy to do 40 buildings electric. Just change it over from the fuses to the breakers. And so things like that that had to be done. Roofs on them are all bad.
But the idea for then creating a section, you said you were visiting Columbus, or you got this.
Oh yeah, I went to German Village in Columbus, Ohio, which had a nice start then, and so I got a lot of ideas. I went there probably 15 times and got to know the people, and they helped me out. So they came down and talked to our group,
to actually form an organization or form a...
Right. So we formed an organization, the German Village Committee. And then we got the papers. Dick Kaler was our attorney. And he put through a lot of the paperwork that we needed to form a German Village organization. So in 1973, then we organized the village. So, anyhow, in 1973 we became German Village.
So that's how what was just an area where there were houses and a couple nice spots. You created an organization, created a neighborhood, essentially.
Right, and I bought most of it too. Now I got 50 houses there, and this is these pictures. I don't know how organized they are. Pat Brown did these for me, and they are organized because we went through it about a month or 2 or 3 months ago, and
well, we may have jumped ahead.
Yeah, you're ahead.
Okay, we'll stop.
This is Village Green. This is they call Wilks Green, I think. I don't know what. This is the people for a concert we had. We've had concerts every year in the village, and we get about 200, 250 people. And all those houses, I bought all the houses and tore out the center, which were garages, outhouses were there. So I got a bulldozer in and bulldozed it, and then just made an open area and
green space.
Yeah, green space.
In a center point for the neighborhood.
So we have picnics there. Okay, this will be organized now.
All right.
This is the carriage house. Now this is our headquarters.
From what era are we talking about?
This is 70s,
Okay.
70s, 80s, and we did some work on it. And so after we got it finished, that's what it is now. You see those big doors there?
Yes.
That's where the horses and carriages went through. There's like a door on both sides. So it's pretty neat. But anyhow, that got finished. And that's one thing that I did.
Okay.
Dave Blue again donated money when we fixed it up, like a paper company.
And again, it's
and we went around to different organizations in the neighborhood, like Dave, and we got probably $25,000 or something like that, and fixed it up.
and it's also a meeting place now. Again,
Right? Yeah, it's quite, and we rent it out. We rent it out to groups.
Whoops. Do we want to go back 1 second? What was
Okay,
the
now here's another one. Okay, this is what.
What was this?
Go back where you were.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
don't know.
Go for it.
wait a minute.
Sorry.
Okay, this is another house. This is the oldest house in the city. This is built in 18. This has a record. Yeah. This I just wanted to make sure. It's been. Oh, what do you call it?
Yeah,
Certified that it when it was built and stuff.
So you have proof basically.
Yeah,
It's the whole
right.
house.
So anyhow, go back again. This is quite a house. But anyhow, we had a lot of birds in the second floor nest, and we found a big one in the attic. We found one of these big bicycles with the big wheels, Mm-hmm. So I don't know what happened to it. Somebody got it. We found it in there, and about a week later, it disappeared. So anyhow, I never saw it. But
So what corner is this? Well,
that's on
I recognize the wall.
Village, yeah.
Yeah,
and,
so that's right down by the river.
And
right?
riverfront.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's where it's one way going up that now.
Yeah.
And you have to turn onto.
so that is the oldest house in Hamilton.
That's the oldest house in Hamilton.
Interesting. I did not know that when I walked by.
Yeah, that's 1815, something like that. But that's just the front part.
Right.
And then they built on that back part. I don't know when they did that, but if you look on the picture in some of the lawyers, they had that. A guy must have been up in a balloon over the west side of Hamilton, looking down toward the river. And that picture was taken in 1850. And I know Reister has it up in his office. They got those old pictures, you know. But anyhow, so that back part is on that picture that you can, you know, that you can look down on.
Okay.
So that had to be before 1850.
All right, well, we're gonna excuse me, keep moving forward
Yeah.
here in the interest of time.
That's the back end of that, and that's the
Okay,
that's
same
the
house,
old-
back end,
Yeah, see
okay.
the toilets there, the two old toilets. You had to pump them. So anyhow, it was fun,
Very good.
and that's the back. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the
back
other
end.
corner.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we walk by there,
Yeah.
the river being, if I was walking this way, the river's
Right.
over here. Yeah,
Yeah.
recognize that. Okay.
Okay, this is going down Riverfront, right where they're going to put the bike path.
Oh, okay. All
Hopefully,
right, yeah.
if we ever get the damn thing done. Jeez. Anyhow, that house is another one right there
Okay.
on the corner. Sandblasted that. We sandblasted them. You weren't supposed to, I guess, in those days. But anyway, that's what they did, or what we did it, and then we had to chemically clean them afterwards. So, but that's another old house, and I don't know how old that is.
But again, this is along Riverfront.
Yeah, this is Riverfront. That's Linden Street, that little alley. That's one thing unique about German Village. The alleys are streets. Like that's Linden Street, and it has houses on it. Okay, so
The alleys,
so you see that gray? We cleaned that. That gray's that brick on right there.
That one there,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we
That's-
cleaned that,
that's
and
the
then
side
put
of
that
it.
fence in. You see
Yeah.
the white fence there, and then we put a brick fence
Yes.
with wrought iron in between, and then that's where the green sits behind that. That's all cleared out. So then we have picnics in there, picnics for the neighbors and all that stuff.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not.
Okay. Well,
Where are
again,
we there? Okay, that's Village Street going. The river's on this side. Our back's to the river, and you're looking up.
Okay.
Village Street. Go ahead. Okay, this is
yeah.
a good one.
Here we go.
There's the.
This is what it looked like.
Yeah, that's the top is what it looked like when I bought it, and after we fixed it up, that's what the bottom is.
What's it called?
Wines and such.
I mean, what was it called up here?
Coach House.
Okay.
So then we got.
Was it? Hub Cafe. Okay.
Oh, it's Coach House there for a while. What the hub? Was it the hub?
Okay.
Too? Yeah. Okay. Now there's the rear end of it. and
Okay.
So you can see the difference.
And you got in the restaurant business for a while.
Yeah. Well, we started out with a wine shop in there. We put a wine shop in, and then we put a little garden where the driveway. You can't see the driveway, but anyhow, there's a driveway there. So we made a picnic. We made a garden out of that, and people from High Acacia would come and, so they'd drink wine and have a good time. Yeah, you can't see the. Yeah, that's okay.
The different angles.
It just different angles. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of us that remember wines and
Yeah.
such.
There's the Mirrors salon now. We're going to repaint that in a month, I guess.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's what it looked like when I bought it right there, and then we did that, and then we did that, and then we something different now.
Okay. So next, this is
Yeah, that's 3rd Street, looking down from Mirrors,
right down towards
and then right down.
wines and such there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's catty corner from our insurance agency. That's what it was when I bought it up on top. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we sandblasted it, or we may have chemically cleaned that one, I think. You can see right there when we're doing it.
Right,
The
you see
front
the
part,
difference.
you see the white, yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have a picture now what it looks like, but it's,
Again, a process more than just changing the electric.
oh yeah, geez.
Again, if you're sandblasting the outside.
Yeah, it did a lot inside too.
Oh, that's
Okay, that's the
beautiful.
rear of that, and that's a smokehouse right there.
That's beautiful.
See, you can see the before and after. That's
Yeah. And by the way, Pat Brown, thank you for putting this together. This is fantastic.
Yeah, Pat did it. He does good work anyhow. So this is the, this is, it used to be a candle house. Yeah,
Yeah,
candle house. And That's what it was. This is on the corner there at on 3rd. What do they call it? The beauty salon.
Oh, yeah.
Friends on 3rd.
Yeah.
Friends on 3rd. Well, that's what it was. You know, that color. Then we
Move it further.
brought out the brick in there and put
Yeah.
a front on it.
That's beautiful.
And so you see that, you know, German Village there's been something done to it over the years.
Been a lot of-
This is all since probably 70s.
And there's the full shot.
Yeah, that's
A lot of time and effort and expense to really turn us around. Again, you see the dramatic difference with these pictures, so
yeah.
very good.
We just took those windows out. Those windows were from Freckling Pharmacy, I guess it was, in 1875, 18. But yeah, we took the pictures out and put regular glass in, and Butler County Museum has those.
That's great. So the Butler County Historical Society has them.
Yeah, and that's Peggy's place. It's my homely sister. I always say it wrong. I say my ugly sister or something. But anyhow, it's a catering place there, right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we did. It's a lot better than that now. And then we took down a building. It looks like right next to it.
Yeah. You got a lot of these pictures have a lot of classic Mustangs in them, I noticed.
Yeah,
That's
right.
just one of the things I noticed.
Yeah, these are just symbols of German Village now. That
Right.
they cook the lights and
The added
street.
touches
Yeah, no,
that you put
this
in.
is all Pat. You know, has that touch on.
Okay, here's another story. Talk about your involvement in how it came about with I'm sorry, was it, the exact title is Cape, what is it? American Cape, thank you.
Yeah.
What was your involvement with this?
Well, Dave Blue is president of the Historic Hamilton. So anyhow, he says we're going to put Alexander Hamilton on High Street, and Bill Wilks is going to do it. That's exactly what he said. And as another thing, you know, he didn't ask anybody else. He just didn't even ask me. He just So anyhow, I did it. We collected about and they were all small. The largest donation was $10,000. We didn't have any big shots, you know, 100,000 or you know whatever to pay for it. We went to schools. We got school children to give quarters and stuff, and just everybody, you know, that could give and be a part of it. And I don't know exactly, I forget. Hamilton Community Foundation took care of all the money that we collected, and so anyhow.
No, but you were involved with.
Yeah, chairman. So.
But you were also involved with the sculpture being made.
Oh yeah, we went to. Cindy and I went to Oklahoma City, where they were.
Is it the foundry?
Foundry, you know, doing the sculpture there. So we went to see, you know, how they're doing, how they're coming along, and I got up on, and they gave me, the Community Foundation gave me a booklet of all these pictures, and I got it somewhere, and I looked all over every place I could think of, and I couldn't find the damn old book. I knew it was in my office, and people like to clean my office because it gets messy here and there, you know, and they move things.
Hate when people put things away.
Yeah, Craig, yeah. So anyhow, I said, where's that book? I know that was up right there. I knew where it was, right on top of that. It's not there.
Over here.
Yeah, right. So anyhow, it's a nice, I'll find it one of these days. But it was a nice book, and it showed me up on the lift, you know, where they do all the little sculpturing around there on the, you know, getting the nose right and everything, holding a $10 bill of Alexander Hamilton on it and putting it to his face.
See if it matched up.
Yeah,
Only up there.
yeah, and It does. It really. You see a lot of sculptures, but she was an excellent. In fact, she's done all the Hall of Fame or the Miami University cradle coaches. All those sculptures she did.
The busts, okay. The full-size sculpture?
Yeah, the full-size sculptures up there. But anyhow, this sculpture is excellent. I mean, the features, and on that little piece of that paper you hold, you can read what, and it's the original script that he was at an occasion that he said. So it's. She went all out on this. She really did, and she was here, and she was in Oklahoma City when we were there, and it was just a real experience. Really.
I recall you raised $250,000 in that race.
No, I think it was about 350, wasn't it?
More.
Yeah. But it wasn't like big. It was all, as I say, there's probably
A lot of people contributed a little bit.
probably 1,000 people, So we got a lot of different people in the city that contributed. Wanted to contribute $2, they could do that, just so they'd be part of the sculpture. So anyhow, I'm very proud of that, and proud of a lot of people that.
And this was actually before that, but the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce and Journal News declared you Citizen of the Year for 2000.
for doing that, and that's what that was for. These are my brothers.
That's the brothers all together. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So anyhow, I guess you recognize Harry and then Francis Isaac Wilks. They call
Dee,
yeah.
Dee, you call it?
Yeah.
What's next in your list of accomplishments? What's the next thing you're going to take on?
I don't know. Somebody like Dave has to say, do this. You live here. You're playing this. You doing that.
You'll be assigned.
Yeah, right.
I would open it up to questions and comments also while we're here. There's one picture we haven't shared yet. You want to tell us?
This is just, it's Nicholas and myself. I got some funny stories. Anyhow, we go, Don Sissel and Jack Conrad and probably 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys. We go play golf someplace. We used to go down to Doral and play, once in the spring or something like that. So then they have the Doral golf tournament down there. So we go down to the golf tournament. So anyhow, I'm down there and we're watching Nicholas play, and Don Sissel and I are walking along the sidelines, and Nicholas is out in front. He says, hey Bill. And Jack says, is he talking to you? I said, yeah.
That's impressive.
He says, come on out. So anyhow, I go under the wire and walk down the fairway with a couple times, and I can see Sissel going. If he knew Don Sissel, he'd be like jealous, why can't, why is he doing that and I'm not doing that, Who do you think he is? He's out there. So anyhow, I said, so I walked with Jack for about 1 hole or 2 holes, and went back, and Sissel's giving me all kinds of hell, all kinds of crap. So I said, well, we're gonna have a drink with him afterwards. He had to stay here. So anyhow, and believe it or not, Nicholas smoked in those days. This was back in the 70s or 80s, and Jack never smoked. You never see him smoking, but he smoked. He quit. But in those days, I don't know how old he was, but it wasn't probably 30s, late 30s or something like that. And I was 8 years ahead of him in school. Yeah. So, but I go back up a lot of times and got to know him, because my best friend at Ohio State lived in Upper Arlington. It was his best friend.
Okay.
So he'd take my best friend at Ohio State, or one of my best friends, and he'd take him out to California, playing that tournament, Pebble Beach, where they had the amateur play with Bob Hogue was his name. Yeah, Pro-Am. And so anyhow, we go in, we're having a drink after the golf tournament. Jack comes in and sits down with us, and we're talking, and Cecil says, "How do you know Wilks? You know, I mean, who do you think you are? How do you know?" He says, "Oh, you know, we knew from school." And he says, "Well, how do you get? You know, what did he?" He says, "Well, when I was in high school, he was my favorite player at Ohio State." Cecil,
I'm blown away.
Cecil I'd had a fit. He hated that. But anyhow, it was just funny. We'd do this, you know, we'd be playing tricks on each other and everything else. It's like a locker room. So, but anyhow, so I'd go to a lot of the tournaments. That was one of the things I like to do, go to the national championships and stuff like that. And so I'd always see Jack and his wife Barbara, and they, you know, so kept in contact up until probably 5 years ago. Go up to the memorial, you know, he'd always come over and talk to me, or so it was sort of nice knowing him, sort of. So anyhow.
Get to be big stuff when.
Yeah.
Hi, Jack.
Yeah.
Hi, Bill.
Do you know him? Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the perks, I guess, when you go to Ohio State, you get to know some people.
Yeah, opening up to the questions or comments,
Bill
or.
also played tennis and golf in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We.
For Letterman?
No, I didn't play golf. I played tennis, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I played golf with Tuart and Hugh Quinn, and they won the state championship. 49ers, you know, they were in the class, but I lived on Park and Edgewood, and so in the summertime I'd walk up to Potters and meet those guys and play with them all the time. So, you know, they're just good friends of mine, and it's good memories, you know. You get these.
And great stories. Again, I'd like to thank Pat Brown for putting together some fantastic, going to the effort to put together some great pictures and showing the before and after. So your time and effort, and of course lovely pictures. So thank you for doing that and bringing it and sharing it. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Or?
How about a Woody Hayes story?
Yeah. God. Anyhow, so I was quarterback, so I always sat in on all the meetings that Woody would have, and Woody was. He's so funny. Woody was a great coach, but he was. The first meeting that when Woody came to Ohio State, I was on that meeting, and they had all these guys, Janowitz, and I mean they're all like from Jersey, you know, and they're big guys, and they were sort of scary. and they, you know, like Janowitz was always getting in trouble doing something. You know, it's like one of the pro athletes they have nowadays. He'd get in a fight or he'd do something. So anyhow, Woody gave a talk, and he said that let's see, what was it? You'll never. Let's see, I forget exactly how he said it. He says, but I'll never squeal on you, you know, or I'll never. So all the guys liked that, you know, because he was trying to be part of the team, and you know, he co-cocked two guys running, you know, on the opposite team. They run by the sidelines. He did it twice. The second time he got fired. But he was a great coach. He ran the great practice. But when the game started, they might as well put him up in the stands. They had the backfield coach. The coach liked me a lot and wanted me to play more. Doig Perry. He went to Bowling Green University. They named the stadium up there after him. He was a great coach. I think, better than Woody as far as knowing real coaching. But Woody had that pound on the ground. I mean,
Persona that
oh yeah. I mean, he'd take his hat off and throw it down and stomp on it. And I mean, he really was an actor. I don't know what he was, but he impressed you. So that type of stuff he was good at. But Doyle Perry, he had a brain.
he could run the game.
Yeah,
So he was more of a game coach.
Yeah, yeah.
And Woody Hayes is more of a practice coach.
He thank God he had Doyle Perry, but he was a great coach. And you know, people don't know around here. You get Miami coaches that in those days were great coaches, but he was one of the best, and he didn't get any recognition whatsoever. But Woody stayed in there, and he was wild, and he'd lose his temper. It wasn't like just once a week. It would be like every day. So anyhow, but he was good.
Yes, sir, Dick.
I grew up a half a block away.
Yeah, he sure did.
Often the little house was one of the happy home. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'd swipe my brother's car. He had a car. He went to Ohio U, and he'd come home, for vacation or something. So I'd steal it, and I wasn't old enough. So I was 14, I think, or something like that. So anyhow, I'm out with Patty, and I pick up Dick Hade, and we're up on what's the name of that street right behind the Amberley Drive? That's right there at where the children's home was, that little road that goes through there.
Oh, the side street?
Yeah. So anyhow, Dick's in the back seat, and Patty's sitting in the front seat. I'm driving, and I'm backing up. I don't know why I didn't want to go up. Then I wanted to turn around. That road's real narrow, and I turned, and the back wheels went over the side. That's pretty steep, yeah. That's the cliff. And as soon as we did that, Dick, I said, Patty, get out. Dick was out before Patty got out. I'm not kidding you either. You remember that, Dick? That was great. But anyhow, we got the car up on the road. That was a narrow one. Because they would have scalped me if they caught me on that.
Bill, I think what you've done in German building is remarkable. It will be called Wilks.
Yeah, they had a journal. They had downtown. At that time, Harry was buying a property on. So they had, I forget what they had, but they had a headline on that. I should have brought that. By the way, where's my picture? Oh, okay, you got it. Yeah. Well, that car. That's the only picture I got of that car. Somebody sent that to me. I don't know. But anyhow, so yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody like to add anything? Yes, sir.
One of my fondest memories of Bill Wilks, he's about 4 or 5 years older than I, or younger than I. And the word would come out, I lived 2 blocks from him, I grew up 2 blocks from him. The word would come out that Billy had run away from home. Quite a few times, even.
Yeah, Billy ran away from home again.
The police were out on me. Anyhow, we're right down here. My dad was going to a meeting someplace in the car. He looks over to the side, he sees this kid on a scooter. It's me, I'm going north, waiting for the light to change. And I'm probably 5 or 6 years old. But in those days, he could go, Mom would say, okay, you be home for dinner, So,
And you'd just be gone.
Yeah, well, I'd go to 2 Mile Creek a lot because I'd explore, play Tarzan down there, swing on the vines, and fall on my rear end. But it's good old days, I'll tell you. We had I'll just tell you a few things. We had a tree bunk, the brothers built, and I was probably 5 years climbing a tree about 20, 30 feet up there. So I get in this bunk, and these cars, they paved the roads with that tar and little pebbles, you know? You remember that?
Oh, yeah. So
The
it's
little pebbles, and they stick to
white-
the tar.
the white pebbles
That's how
on the
they,
white
that's
tar.
how they, you know, took care of the cracks and stuff. So anyhow, I'm up there and I got these little pebbles and the car go by and I'm not thinking that I'd put a dent on it or anything. I was too young to realize. But yeah,
Missed you.
yeah. And they get out and they look around and I'm up there hiding. I mean, just a little mischief things. Jeez.
I remember I was on the German Village Commission.
I'm sorry, you speak up a
Early
little.
days of
German Village Commission?
German Village, and we'd get a call and we'd have to meet at his door of the house he was working on, because he hadn't applied for the paperwork on time. We had to walk through and say, yes, we approve of what you've done. We did that on more than one occasion.
I'd forget.
Well, I appreciate Bill, you being with us tonight and sharing. And we had actually planned to have this program a couple months ago. We kept having to put it off for a couple months, but I appreciate that you stuck with it, stuck with me, that we were able to do the program, and I appreciate being able to sit down with you and share. Because again, and again, we could go on with stories all night long, and I'm sure a lot of people could add stories. So I appreciate being able to do this. And thank you for everyone for coming out and enjoying this, and appreciate Mr. Wilks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.